My name is Dave Barton. I'm the mayor of Uxbridge. We moved this council meeting to this location because I think our fire code is 62 people in council chambers, and I think we'd be a little bit over. So that's why we're all here tonight. And just before we get started, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's going to happen here tonight. So we're looking at a zoning bylaw amendment. Our planner is going to present her findings on this. And whichever option council chooses tonight, there will be a number of people in the room that aren't happy with the solution that we came up with. Just please keep in mind that this is not personal. Every one of us is here doing our very best to represent the best interests of the Township of Uxbridge. So again, whichever way this goes, just know that we're all here to do our very best thing for the town. And either way, people aren't going to be, there'll be a number of people that aren't happy, okay? And then, please, we're all neighbors here. Most of us grew up together. Let's try and be as respectful as possible, okay? So, thank you very much. So, are there any disclosures of interest? Pam. Go ahead, Pam.
Okay. Grainboys holding items 186, 187, 188, 189. Okay, I'm losing here. Correspondence FR 02-19, report DS 1719. Delegates Zach Calhoun, Howie and Garrett Harima, and bylaw 2019-054 and correspondence 190-191. Okay, I, Pamela Beach, declare perceived pecuniary interest in the manner above, Grainboys Holding Inc., and it is a perceived pecuniary interest because of the residents' bullying and stress imposed upon me.
Thank you very much, Pam. Appreciate it. So, just so everyone's aware, Pam is now going to leave the building, okay? And again, it's because of the Conflict of Interest Act that she's going to step out of the meeting. Thanks for coming, Pam. All right. Yeah, do you want to do that?
Just at the back, if we could make sure that you keep an aisleway open at the back and keep away from all the exits just in case. Our fire chief's here and he's keeping a watchful eye. Thank you.
Okay, and are there any items not listed on the agenda, Madam Clerk?
Your Worship, there were 2 addendums that went out, one on Friday, which included a deputation, 2 pieces of correspondence, a report, and a bylaw, and another one that went out today that included 2 pieces of correspondence.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are going to start with our first delegation. This is Zach Calhoun, and he is an executive committee member of the Durham Region Federation of Agriculture. And is Zach here yet? Okay, Zach seems to be running a few minutes late, so we will bring up, I believe I saw Howie, Harima in the back, and Garrett. There we go. Howie, can you go first? Do you mind? Perfect. So we've got Howie and Garrett Harima, and they're speaking about this bylaw amendment.
Residents of Uxbridge, members of council, staff, and fellow members of the farming community that have come out tonight. Grainboys application, we became aware of it last June, I believe, and we've been following it from a distance for quite a while, and you residents have been following it quite closely. And from a farming perspective, to give you some background, we have a dairy farm just north of Leesdale. So, we're roughly 12 miles from the actual location that they are looking at. But many of you have been following the news and what's going on in the world, and I was hoping Zach was going to speak before we had a chance to speak, because I didn't know what kind of stuff he was going to cover. But it's hard to believe that an executive in Huawei is affecting what's going on at our farms in Leasdale right now. But that is the case. The lack of purchases that is going on in China and around the world, as well as in India right now, where they are saying they don't want our chickpeas, those things all spill back into the farm. And to give a quick synopsis how we market grain, it's got two things in it. It's got the Chicago base price, which sets for the whole world, and then there's something called basis. And that, in basis, what is in there is the Canadian dollar against the American, the difference, transportation to delivery, as well as local demand. Where Grainboys fits into the operations of the people of farmers in Uxbridge, North Durham, Close in York, is in that basis section. We will have the ability, if this goes forward, to sell grains at a price that is more competitive because of our proximity to it. We still have got to be competitive, but this is where the advantage is. Now with the new carbon pricing that's come in, even that has added to our costs of production, especially in transportation. None of that is exempt from agricultural payments. So we really believe, looking at the numbers here, if we can be priced in, they use a grain broker that is local to the area, not Uxbridge based. He lives in Uxbridge, but their business isn't Uxbridge based. We can see a lot of advantages. There's a letter on your agenda from Dale Mountjoy, and Dale isn't just speaking on behalf of his farm, which is near us, but on behalf of the approximately 280 grain-producing farmers in Uxbridge, as well as the 880 across Durham region that contribute to all this. So those are some of the brief positives that we see from this. And I'm a third-generation farmer, and Garrett's coming on as a fourth generation. And that's not a new story to a lot of the other people that are in this room with me today. And I'm very pleased that they took the efforts to come out here, because we have multi-lineage farms that are here and certainly would like to have the opportunity to market our product to there and see that this right-sized mill is appropriate for our area. Garrett?
Thanks, Dad. Members of council, those in the community, staff, those in the press, I just wanted to say, with all the trade negotiations that are going on as well between NAFTA, there's uncertainty there. I heard today that it's not going to be ratified. We got Brexit that's coming forth. We're not sure what that's going to do, and other trade issues that are going on throughout the world. One thing I want to mention is our farm, because we are dairy, has the opportunity sometimes to ship milk to Kawartha Dairy. And when we hear that truck is going to Kawartha, it brings our farm a sense of pride that we are selling to a business that is not only in Uxbridge, it is spread throughout Ontario as well. And this business with the grain marketing would fit the philosophies of our farm very well, and the beliefs that we like to sell locally. You look across the room, there's a few at the back, and I'm seeing faces around. The farmers in the community are not just farmers. They are those that have kids in hockey, they're coaches, they're active in the community, fair boards, other organizations. They are spending money in Uxbridge as well as other communities in the area. This mill is a good fit, and not to mention that when the mill proposally gets up and running, those that are going to be working in the business will also be active in the community. So this isn't just good for Uxbridge, this is good for Goodwood, and this is good for Township as well as Durham region and other areas. Thank you.
all we have at this time, Mayor.
Thank you very much. The Harriman Farm family have been, they've been active in our community for a long, long time. And thank you for all you guys do to give back. If you haven't toured the Harriman's Farm or a dairy farm in our area, I suggest you take the time to do it and get a better sense of where our food comes from. It's critical that we have people in our community creating the food that we eat. Has Zach arrived yet? No? All right, so let's deal with, we have a few items of correspondence. The first one is item number 186, and this is from Mitch, who's the president of the Durham Regional Federation of Agricultural. And it's on page number 4 in our agenda. What would we like to do with this, council? Willie, do you want, so I can, normally we're in a U so I can see people's hands more effectively.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Motion to receive and attach to the. Check.
There you go.
Got me?
You're good now.
Thank you. Motion to receive and forward to the Grainboy file.
Okay. And can I get a seconder for that? You have to stick your hands where, thanks, Cord. Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. The next one is item 187. This is from Crushall in regards to Grainboys Holdings. This is a response to a bunch of different information. What would we like to do with this? Willie, do you want to do it again so I can see your hand?
Again, motion to receive, attached to the Grainboy file, and I think I would forward to the Goodwood Ratepayers Association as well.
I think they've changed the name to Ward 1. But yeah,
Thank
we'll make
you.
sure we do it. Thanks, Willie.
Duly amended, thank you.
Okay, moved by Willie, seconded by Gord. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, next we've got item 189. This is from Conrad Richter, and this is in regards to the Grainboys file again. What would you like to do with this, Willie, or someone else? Yeah. Bruce, do you want to receive this? You're probably on.
There we go. Also receive for information and refer to the Grainboys file.
Okay, thank you very much. I think there's two. That's the one on the agenda. Okay, and seconded by Todd. All in favor? That's carried. Sorry, we can't go through every piece of correspondence, sir. It's just impossible. I apologize. Okay, next. What's the next one on the agenda here, Madam Clerk?
So
This is the report from Phil, or we have a couple on the addendum?
there is 188.
189?
Leary, and 189.
Okay.
Conrad Richter.
Okay, we have another one, 188. This is from David O'Leary. This is in regards to his concerns with fire. Quickly, Gord, do you want to move this? Yep, and seconded by Willie. All in favor? Carried. Okay, and we're getting close to reports, I believe.
Did you do Conrad?
We did Conrad.
Okay, so then we'll do 190, 191.
Okay, let's move these both at the same time, possibly. We've got 190 and 191. This is from Peter Reese and Alvin and Brenda Brooks in regards to this file as well. Okay. Move to receive. Thanks. Todd, seconded by Bruce. All in favor? Carried. Next, I think we have Phil's report, correct?
Oh, did you want to do this first?
Is Liz first on the agenda?
Yes, she is.
Okay, let's go with Liz then. Liz, do you want to come up and present your report? What's that? Oh, he hasn't showed up yet. When he does, we'll move him ahead. Go ahead, thanks a lot, Liz. And just so you guys understand, Liz is our consultant planner, Liz Housen, and she wrote the report on this. Go ahead, Liz. And please, guys, and please try not to speak over us. We want to make sure everyone can hear. Let's be respectful. Thank you.
So can everyone hear me? I'll try. All right. Okay. Mr. Mayor, members of council, members of the public, I'm going to provide a context for the planning process just for those of you who are being puzzled by what is going on with this process. Then I'm going to just briefly summarize the application, outline the report. Like the correspondence, I'm not going to run through all of the report because we would be here for quite some time. I'm going to summarize the results of the analysis and the conclusions and the recommendations. In terms of the planning process, the Planning Act provides the legal framework that governs planning in Ontario. The planning system is a policy-led system. That is, we set overall goals and objectives, and that is how things are evaluated in the context of that system. Uxbridge is fortunate or unfortunate in that they are subject to almost all the major provincial planning documents. So the growth plan, the Oak Ridges Moraine Plan, the Greenbelt Plan, the provincial policy statement, all of those apply to Uxbridge. On top of that, the region of Durham and the township are both required under the Planning Act to develop their own policies and regulations. Anybody who wants to do anything in the township is subject to all of those policies and regulations. And in many cases, if they want to do something like this particular application, they have to make an actual change to the documents. And there can be various changes that are required. In this particular case, it's a zoning bylaw amendment, but with some more complex processes, you may have an actual amendment to the regional official plan, to the township official plan, and you may also have, at a more detailed level, site plan application. There is also other variations, but I'm not going to get into those. That gives you an idea of the scope of the type of application that may come before this council. For each one of these applications, people who are making the application have to submit background information and studies, and it's all subject to review by the public and agencies. Township council, in most cases, is the decision-making body. So they're the people who have to say yes or no or maybe. In the case, of course, of a regional official plan amendment, it will be the regional council. But in the case of most of the applications that affect development in this township, it's the township council. However, although they make their decisions are subject to appeal. Their decision or lack of decision can be appealed to a group called the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. And those of you who are older than maybe 20 will know that used to be called the Ontario Municipal Board before they changed the name of it. There can be an appeal to LPAT by the applicant if the application is refused or if a decision is not made within a specific period of time. So with a zoning bylaw amendment, council has 150 days to make a decision on a zoning bylaw amendment application. The other kind of appeal is that once the council has made a decision, it can be appealed by the applicant or by a person or public body who made submissions regarding the application to council. The grounds for appeal of the decision are varied depending on what the application is. But in the case of a zoning bylaw amendment, the grounds for appeal are the decision is inconsistent with a provincial policy statement, it fails to conform or conflicts with a provincial plan, or it fails to conform with the applicable official plan amendment, or official plan. So those are the grounds for appeal. Turning to the Grainboys application, the applicant is Grainboys Holding Inc. The application is for a zoning bylaw amendment. The subject lands are 351 Regional Highway 47, and the proposal is for a dry grain processing plant. The policies that apply are the policies found in the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Plan, which is a provincial plan, and which designates the site as something called countryside area. The Durham Region and the Township official plans also apply, and they recognize the subject site as Oak Ridges Moraine areas, and there's also some layers on top of that. So high aquifer vulnerability area, countryside area, landform conservation area category 2, an area of high potential aggregate resources. So all of those designations have a whole series of policies that are applicable to these, to the lands that are affected, and in this particular case, to the Grainboys site. The map that you see is an excerpt from the Township official plan, which in turn is based on the Oak Ridges Moraine plan for this particular area. And the Grainboys site is this little red patch. And then this is a blow-up of the actual lot fabric around the Grainboys site. The planning report that is before council outlines the background to the application, the planning status, the results of the agency and public consultation. It analyzes the application and reaches certain conclusions and makes a recommendation. In terms of the policy framework, provincial, regional, and township planning policy permits agricultural related uses in the rural area, including in the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Plan in the countryside area designation. The proposed use is directly related to farm operations and has the potential to support local farm operations and support agricultural uses generally and locally. It will benefit from being in close proximity to farm operations, and farm operations will benefit from their proximity to the mill. The review of the issues identified, and there's a variety of them, including noise, noxious weeds, and servicing, indicates that the facility can be designed to address the concerns and to be compatible with and not hinder adjacent farm operations as required by planning policies. The review of the policy framework indicates, in my opinion, that the proposed use conforms to provincial, regional, and township planning policy, subject to addressing specific requirements of the policy. So for instance, there's specific direction in the Oak Ridges Moraine about landform conservation, and there is a need when you're developing a site like this to make sure that you protect the underlying landform on the site. Turning to the identified issues, noise and dust were identified as specific issues related to this use. The township's noise consultant reviewed the information submitted by the applicant and concluded that the facility can be designed to meet provincial noise standards, and no issues were identified with respect to the ability to meet provincial air quality standards. The application is recommended on the basis, though, that formal provincial environmental compliance approval will be required to address noise impacts and air quality as a condition of approval. And by that, to step back a little bit, the recommended zoning bylaw has what's called a hold on it. And the hold can only be lifted when certain conditions are met. And that would include this provincial environmental approval. With respect to noxious weeds, I had a conversation myself with a provincial weed specialist. He advised that there is a concern about the potential to spread noxious weeds, but that the facility and process can be designed to mitigate that risk. So again, the hold zone, the lifting of the hold zone will be dependent on the design of the facility and related process to mitigate any risk related to the spread of noxious weeds. In addition, the township will appoint a weed inspector to monitor the facility on a regular basis at the cost of the applicant. Concerns were raised about truck traffic in Goodwood, and I've worked for the township for a long time. I can tell you that traffic in Goodwood has been a concern as long as I've been working for the township, which is 1994. However, the limited number of trucks for this operation will not significantly add to what is already an existing issue. Nevertheless, it's recommended that the proponent, that the applicant, develop a haul route plan that will minimize the limited number of trucks coming to the operation from traveling through Goodwood. In addition, truck deliveries will be prohibited beyond the hours of 8 to 5. So trucks can only deliver between 8 and 5. It's also set out in the report that the township should work with the region to develop additional design measures for Regional Highway 47 to reduce speed and increase traffic safety in the hamlet. With respect to fire and explosion, the fire department has not identified any fire safety efforts or fire safety concerns. And the proposed approach is that the fire suppression will be reviewed at the detailed design stage in conformity with the fire code and the building code. And the fire chief is here tonight too, if there's anything that needs to be said further to that. Another issue that was raised was the possibility of the use attracting rodents. The applicant has indicated that they have a strict policy with respect to their certified food safety program, which requires weekly inspection by a pest control company. As a result, any rodent issues seem unlikely. If such issues were to develop, however, Durham Health would be involved, and the township can also utilize its property standards bylaw. With respect to hours of operation, the major concern appears to be related to activity outside the plant, in particular truck deliveries. And as I noted, the hours for truck deliveries will be restricted. In addition, restrictions on any outside activity will be established through agreement with the township. And further, if through the final noise study it's deemed that there is a need to restrict plant hours, that can be included also in the site plan agreement. Concerns were raised with environmental risks due to septic load and well water levels and quality. Based on the technical work to date, no issues have been identified. And all the submissions have been reviewed by the township's engineering consultant. However, as is the township's normal practice, there will be monitoring of adjacent wells required for 5 years to make sure that there's no impacts. And if there are deemed to be impacts, it will be dependent on the applicant to resolve those issues. In terms of light pollution, that will be looked at through the site plan process and including the direction of any lighting and the amount of any lighting. So in terms of the overall conclusion, the review of the policy framework indicates, in my opinion, that the proposed development conforms to planning policies subject to addressing specific requirements and identified issues. Therefore, in my opinion, the development is appropriate and represents good planning. However, the zoning bylaw should include a zoning provision, a holding provision, which will only be lifted when the following conditions are addressed. So I've already talked about the formal environmental compliance approval, which will be actually required through the Ministry of Environment, Conservation, and Parks to address noise impacts and air quality. And this will require submission of a detailed noise study indicating strict compliance with NPC-300, which is the name of their standard, of the ministry standard, as well as an emission summary and dispersion modeling report that incorporates the recommended best practices to aid in the reduction of emissions or reducing of impacts of such emissions. All the studies required by the township have to be prepared to the satisfaction of the township, and the recommendations incorporated into the site plan and site plan agreement, and financially secured and registered on the title of the property. This includes a detailed plan for the facility and related processes to mitigate any risk related to the spread of noxious weeds, which will be approved by the township in consultation with provincial and/or other weeds control specialists. An agreement with the proponent with respect to the appointment of a weed inspector to monitor the facility on a regular basis at the cost of the operator. Establishment of a truck haul route, which will minimize the number of trucks traveling through Goodwood. Prohibition of truck deliveries outside the hours of 8 to 5, and the establishment of restrictions on outside activity related to the operation on the site, generally for a similar time period. Requirement for a traffic impact brief to address operation of the site and site access, with the scope of the brief to be determined in consultation with the region. That's because this fronts onto a regional road, not onto a local township road. Assessment of the shallow aquifer elevation and establishment of any modifications to the infiltration design, with the scope of the review being determined in consultation with the township. Provision of detailed designs for site servicing, including a water and sewage plan, a stormwater management plan, a well monitoring plan for a minimum of 5 years, a lighting plan, landscaping plan, and cost estimates to address comments identified by AECOM Canada, who are the township's engineering consultant, and the region of Durham, with the scope of the work being determined in consultation with both the township and the region as applicable. A landform conservation plan that satisfies the requirements of the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Plan, with the scope being determined in consultation with the township and the region. Submission of a clearance letter for archaeological assessment from the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport to the region of Durham. Submission of a regional reliance letter and certificate of insurance to the region's satisfaction to the region for environmental work completed, which is the Phase 1 environmental site assessment. And any agreements required by the region of Durham have been entered into with the region and registered on the title of the property. So those are the conditions for the lifting of the holding zone. And based on that recommendation, I am recommending to council that they receive this report and that they approve the zoning bylaw and adopt the implementing zoning bylaw amendment.
Thank you very much, Liz. Liz, if you could stay up for questions, that'd be fantastic from council. So are there any questions from council? That would make, do it after. Oh, okay, so Liz, would you be open? We have one more deputation, and then we've got the fire chief is coming up to present a report. Would you be okay if we just quickly table your report, bring you back up for questions?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yep.
All right. So can I get a motion to table Liz's report? Moved by Gord, seconded by Willie. All in favor? That's carried. And then we'll, just for everyone in the audience, Liz will come back up, answer all of our questions from council. We're going to bring up Zach Calhoun first, just so Liz is the last voice we hear. Thanks. Come on up, Zach. Thanks a lot.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of council. My name is Zach Cahoon, and I am a farmer in the region of Durham in the township of Scugog, and I am here representing the Durham Federation of Agriculture. So the Durham Federation of Agriculture is a group of local farmers that sit together and we do educational things and promotional things for agriculture, and we also deal with farm-related issues. And I'm here in the capacity as a local farmer to talk to you about a local business that wants to do an agricultural business in the region of Durham. Right now, everything that a farmer grows in the region of Durham gets on a truck and goes 2 to 2.5 hours out of the region to be processed into goods that we use, into feed sources, into material for food, into fuel. Everything we have in the region of Durham leaves this region. I think it's a fantastic thing that we, as a community, embrace a business that's going to use our agricultural products in the region and create a product that can be locally grown, locally made, and sold as a finished product to consumers. That is basically what I have to tell you. I think it's a good thing. The Durham Federation of Agriculture supports their application. The Durham Federation of Agriculture sees it as a benefit to agriculture in the whole region. And in my opinion, I think it's a good thing as well. From reading what the planners have said, it all fits in with a normal proposed agricultural business. And I think it's a good thing for the region. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Zach. So there won't be questions from the floor today. I apologize. Yeah. So are there any questions for Zach from council? No. Thanks a lot, Zach. Thanks for coming in. Okay. Next, we've got our fire chief coming up. Okay, well, guys, people, hey, folks, okay.
Do you not get it?
So,
Don't get it.
folks, we understand this is a heated issue. We understand. Okay, folks, we've had 10 or 15 deputations on this from multiple residents. We've received lots of letters. Many of our council members have met with lots of different residents. Okay.
It's supposed to be where the residential area is supposed to be.
Okay, folks. So our option here, guys, our option is that we will very quickly do a vote, and this meeting will be over. Or just second. Okay, or folks. Okay. Okay, folks. Okay. Guys. Okay, hold up. Folks, okay, please. We have listened to multiple deputations come in. Okay, Mr. Richter's been in 3 times. Folks, we have, he's spoken to us for about an hour. No, folks, and our policy states, the way this works is if you want to speak at a council meeting, you put in a deputation request. When Mr. Richter spoke in the past, when Bev Northeast spoke in the past, they put in a deputation request. That's just how the system works. That's how this works. I apologize that you didn't know that coming in.
We don't know anything.
Okay, so folks.
We didn't even know about the application.
Folks.
That was what, last year, April? So you take
Okay.
the number of months we know and let's extend it.
Guys, we've sat through hours and hours of meetings on this.
You sat through it,
Okay.
not us.
What do you suggest we do? Hey, Phil, go ahead.
So, my name's Phil Alexander. I'm the fire chief here for the township. I've written 2 reports. I get just to give you some background, 2 reports to council regarding, in response to correspondence, you have some prolific correspondence. So I've written 2 reports to council at the request to respond.
Can we turn up Phil a little bit, Al? Thank you very much.
Sorry. Just to give you some background on the fire department's role in a planning application. The fire code is a maintenance code. The fire code takes effect once a building has been constructed and occupancy has been granted. And from then on, the fire department is responsible for maintaining, ensuring that the building is maintained in the status that it had when it was ultimately constructed. Up until that final inspection and occupancy is granted, the building is under the building code. So the fire department doesn't have any actual input into the process up until the point where building plans are finally submitted for review and perhaps a site plan agreement is put in place, and then the fire department has an opportunity to comment on the building. So obviously we've been aware that this proposal is before council for some time. And a number of you have written to council, some of you have written directly to me regarding the building.
We didn't know the council's seen it for a year without telling us.
So, I can only speak to the elements that the fire department is responsible for. I don't have any other authority. The fire department doesn't have any other authority. So, some of the concerns raised in advance of having witnessed any of these documents are the fire hazard potential in the building, the source of water, or the supply of water for fighting a fire. And I can tell you that those things ultimately are the responsibility of the architect and the engineer who present their drawings and the plan agreements for us to approve when ultimately they come forward. So there are quite a number of large industrial occupancies, residential occupancies, assembly occupancies in this township, which are not on municipal water services, but have private water suppression systems on their property, tanks, fire pumps, generators, sprinkler systems, as I expect this building would be required to have when it moves ahead. Until those final drawings are brought forward by an architect or an engineer, that calculation isn't possible to do. So, when these plans come forward, I expect, from what we've seen over and over again, because it's their job, this larger building will be divided up into a number of smaller occupancies within that same structure in order that they can minimize their risk to their building, and they can perhaps minimize the amount or lessen the amount of fire protection that they need to put in for the higher hazard occupancies that take place inside that building. So I think some of you have commented, and there's been correspondence that this will be a high hazard industrial building. That's true, it will be. And the milling operation that's what it will be. There's no doubt. There's other occupancies similar to that elsewhere in the township and rural areas that have been provided with the same fire protection that this building will ultimately require.
Are they exposed to residential areas? You said rural. So no?
They're all over the township, in the village of Uxbridge, in other places, okay? They meet the requirements of the building code and the fire code when they're built, as we will enforce the code on this one. So, if it goes ahead, so anyway, so there's some other comments regarding concern about the ability of the fire department to respond to this location, and to the hamlet of Goodwood itself. So this address, 351 Highway 47, is the last address in the westernmost section of the township that is serviced initially by the Uxbridge Fire Department. Addresses 349 and 350, Highway 47. I don't know if there's a building at those addresses, but those are the final addresses in the area of the fire protection agreement with Whitchurch Stouffville. So for an incident that was to occur at this address, the Uxbridge Fire Department would respond there first. you drive it. I'm thinking it's about 8 minutes, but I don't know. Yep, just carry on? Okay, so it's right in the middle between Uxbridge and Stouffville.
My insurance company doesn't think it's a good risk for my insurance, so maybe you should talk to them if this is such a good risk.
So other correspondence was received from folks regarding the fire underwriter survey. The Township of Uxbridge Fire Department has been evaluated by the fire underwriter survey before. We're actually going through a review of our department right now with fire underwriters. It started last fall. It still continues. It will be, when it's completed, your insurance companies will make use of the information that the fire underwriter survey provides to them. They don't provide it directly to the fire department. The question of whether this address or even the hamlet of Goodwood is within the area that's covered by the Superior Fire Shuttle. Neither of this address or the hamlet of Goodwood is covered by that shuttle service, and it's simply because all those addresses are too far from either the fire station in Uxbridge or Stouffville. Until a fire station was built closer to Goodwood, or in Goodwood, that insurance accreditation will never apply to the hamlet of Goodwood. So, so my report to council was simply to receive the correspondence that the second report from Mr. O'Leary, to respond that that the fire risk is as he has identified it, and it will have to be mitigated through the building code process. And then we don't have an opinion on the planning, only on the fire code.
Phil, could you take some questions from council?
Sure.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Gordon.
Hello. Oh, we're live. Could I ask, through you to the chief, if we had a fire safety plan once the drawings or whatever were submitted, would that deal with the issues that you've expressed earlier?
So fire safety plan is something that's covered in the fire code.
Right.
For this proposed occupancy, if there's a human occupancy of more than 25 persons in that facility, then it does indeed require a fire safety plan. A fire safety plan is something we require, is not just for this kind of building, because we've got, I want to think, more than 100 in play in the township right now, but they apply to assembly occupancies, recreation occupancies, care facilities, the hospital, the arena, the library, this building, anywhere where there's people in a sufficient quantity to warrant a fire safety plan. And for the industrial occupancy, it's 25 persons. Then there has to be a fire safety plan.
Any other questions for the chief? No? Chief, with something like this, explain if there happened to be an incident. Just to explain the process.
There is no process.
Okay, folks, this guy's job is to save our lives if there's an issue. Please be respectful. Thank you. Go ahead, Phil.
Okay, so if there's a fire incident at this address, it will start with how the fire is reported. If it's reported to 911 by a landline phone, because it's at 351, it will be reported to the Uxbridge Fire Department. If somebody's driving down the highway with a cell phone and feels they see something and said, hey, there's a fire in Goodwood, it will likely go to the Stouffville Fire Department, because Goodwood is the area that's covered by the fire protection agreement with Stouffville. And unfortunately, more and more people are divesting themselves of landlines and going with cell phones. So we rely on the location of cell phone towers for reporting incidents. But the address is 351. If it's reported at 351, Uxbridge Fire Department will respond first.
Just keep going.
So, Uxbridge will respond. If it's a fire, we'll have Stouffville respond. We also have access to the mutual aid system in Durham region, which encompasses all the fire stations in the region.
Is there an aerial truck by any chance?
So then we, again, assuming...
We need to know if there's an
Hey, Sal. Well, so, no, and I get it. Okay, let's make sure, let's be as respectful as possible. Okay, go ahead, Phil.
Might I have permission to respond to this couple?
See, the concern I have with everyone in the room, just so you're aware, the concern I have is we want to be as respectful as possible, and when we take shout-outs from the room, Sal, and I totally get it. What I'm concerned about, though, is if all of a sudden we have shout-outs from the floor, and we're responding, we lose control of the room, and nothing gets said for the rest of the night. Okay? That's the concern. But Sal, I'll ask you a question for you. And if anyone has a question for anyone, my cell number is 416.
Yeah.
I have 3 bars. But anyway, sorry guys. I'm trying to find ways to mitigate your concerns. Go ahead.
I tried to email you and ask questions, but you never returned my email.
Keep going, Phil.
Okay,
Go
so from this point on, it's the same basic response for every fire. We will respond with the apparatus that we have to this address to combat the fire. When we receive building plans for this building, it will identify the requirement for water storage on the scene, for emergency power, for a fire pump, for sprinklers if required. And people need to understand, even in the guidelines that are provided by the Fire Marshal's Office for the development of a rural water supply and an industrial occupancy, because there are guidelines for that the primary purpose of the initial firefighting supply of water on the site is for the protection of the people in the facility and the protection of the property around. If the owner chooses to expend more money to further protect his asset, then he may go ahead with the guidance from an insurance company to add even more fire protection. But the primary purpose of the guidance which is provided in the fire code is to protect the people on the site and the residents around.
Can you put out a fire if there was one there quickly?
So Phil, I have a question for you. Do we own an aerial in Uxbridge?
We do not own an aerial in Uxbridge. We have a fire protection agreement with Stouffville Fire Department that we use their aerial if we required an aerial in that part of the township.
So the delay from this site, from an aerial showing up at this site would be 8 minutes, maybe?
Well, it's exactly the same time from Stouffville, I believe, from Stouffville to that address as Uxbridge to that address. It's right on the dividing line in the fire protection agreement.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Phil, how many, we've had fires way more than we've ever had before in the last 2 years, correct? Well, no, don't answer, it's okay.
It goes in cycles.
So again, when we've had issues in the past, like Foster Drive and things like that, have we lost any buildings because of turnout from our team?
No. So our whole suppression division is a part-time fire department. That's the way we operate in Uxbridge. That's the model that the township has chosen to pursue. We have 40 firefighters. Every one of our firefighters and officers is certified under NFPA to the level of rank that they carry. So we have firefighters 1 and 2, company officers 1 and 2, fire prevention officers 1 and 2, public educators 1 and 2. They're all certified. All of our apparatus is similarly certified by the insurance ULC for its pumping capacity. It all complies to the fire underwriter survey. So our firefighters are highly skilled, our equipment is in excellent condition, and it's maintained in excellent condition. It's no different than any other fire department in the province. Our staffing is in a part-time model. That is different.
And just in terms of response numbers, when we've had fires in the last 6 months, maybe talk about the last 3, how many of our team responded? How many trucks went that were full?
So our trucks respond, they're always full, but I could of our 40 firefighters, typically we put between 18 and 20 firefighters on scene in the initial response. I can tell you that our neighbors with full-time firefighters have 3 and 6 firefighters on duty. So if you're thinking about a difference between a part-time fire department and a full-time fire department, our neighbors only have 3 to 6 on duty, and they're backed up by volunteers. They're a composite department. So ours is an excellent turnout time. It's an excellently, or a highly qualified group of individuals, all certified.
Okay. Hey, does anyone else have questions from Phil? Thank you very much, Mr. Chief, appreciate it. Now, Mr. Hyatt, Gord, can you, we have that one bylaw that has to do with fire that we wanted to, we listened very carefully to the letters we received. Thanks, Mr. O'Leary, for your correspondence, we appreciate it. And because of what we've received from you, we're making a suggestion to our planner for a bylaw. Can you read that, please? Thank you.
Okay, this would be a proposed modification to recommendation 2, which is Liz's report. A detailed weed control plan for the facility and related processes to mitigate any risk related to the spread of noxious weeds, which will be approved by the township in consultation with provincial and/or municipal weed control specialists in accordance with federal, provincial, and municipal regulations. A fire safety plan for industrial occupancies to mitigate any risk related to fire, which plan will be approved by the Township Council in consultation with the Township Fire Chief in accordance with the Fire Code, Building Code, and other relevant provincial and municipal regulations. And this has to do with the aesthetics of the building, drawings in accordance with the Planning Act, including plan, elevation, and cross-section views for any proposed buildings or structures which are sufficient to display the massing and conceptual design of the proposed buildings or structures, their relationship to adjacent buildings or structures, streets, and exterior areas, and their exterior design, including character, swale, appearance, and design features, which illustrates to the satisfaction of the Township Council that the development is in keeping with the nature of the surrounding agricultural area. Those are the 3 amendments I'm suggesting, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. So with those 3 amendments, the first one is in regards to weeds. So we've received multiple communications from lots of different residents of Goodwood with concerns about weed control, with the strongest voice coming out of Mr. Richter. So we've added to the hold some additional wording to ensure that before this facility moves forward, that we as a council are comfortable with that site plan to ensure that it will mitigate as much risk as possible when it comes to invasive species. We heard you loud and clear, Mr. Richter. Thank you very much. Okay? When it came to fire, the strongest voice came from Mr. O'Leary. Okay? And we met, we talked to our fire chief, we looked at all of the options we had, and we want to make sure that when we get the final drawings for this building, that we are comfortable with our employees going to fight fires on that location, and we want to make sure we're comfortable with the risk that place. You can send me an email. If anyone wants to respond, I've just received one. Sorry. I just can't deal with it that way. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work. If you want to step outside and send me an email, that's fine. Okay, so from a fire perspective, we heard loud and clear, and we wanted to make sure we did what we could. And this will not...
It's going to be explosion, okay?
Okay.
You're going to let them know it's explosion.
Okay.
Not fire. This is incineration, okay?
Okay, folks.
When the grain farm goes up, the houses are annihilated.
Okay.
Okay? No, yeah.
So
You can laugh all you want. You can laugh all you want.
okay, folks.
The township, the people that pay taxes should know exactly what's going in.
Okay, folks.
Not beating around no bushes.
Again, we want to make sure we're comfortable with the fire protection plan for this facility. Okay, this business has been operating for a long, long time in Aurora.
Not beside homes. They're in a industrial.
Okay.
It's an industrial farm.
Guys. Yes, please go ahead, Will.
If I could, I still have... I still have some questions for our planner, Liz Housen. I don't see this process right now doing us any good whatsoever, so I'd rather ask a couple questions as it relates to a recommendation, if I could.
Oh, yeah. Can I first get a motion on Phil's report?
Motion to receive, and as per the recommendation, forward to Grainboys and to the person that provided it to us, Mr. O'Leary.
Thank you. Moved by Willie, seconded by Gord. All in favor? Thank you.
Then if we could lift Liz's report back, I
Sure.
believe we have to lift it, right?
Okay, so moved by Willie, seconded by Bruce, to lift Liz's report and have her come up and ask, and answer questions of council. All those in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to Liz. Liz, you mentioned that this could potentially, for one reason or another, end up at OMB, formerly now known as LPAT. And with that in mind, we've put, as you said, there's an H which stands for a hold based upon some of the conditions that we've put upon this moving forward. If this went forward to LPAT, could the pieces that we put in place that we want to ensure are looked after by the applicant, could they be removed by LPAT, and then we wouldn't have any of those pieces that we've asked for? Outside of the provincial ones that we've made a few here that we're trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So I guess I'll ask it again. If it goes to LPAT, we've got specific, call them hurdles, that they have to achieve to remove the hold. Could that be removed by LPAT and they could just approve it as they see fit based upon current legislation?
So they could do that. I think it's unlikely because the way that it's structured now, they have to give a lot of weight to council's decision. So I guess, step back a bit. If council were to approve the bylaw and it was to end up at LPAT, that would be council's decision. So it would be, they could undo it or undo part of it, depending on the evidence that's in front of them. It would be more difficult. If council didn't approve it, then I think anything could happen.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Yeah. Go ahead, Gordon.
Just on, through you to Liz, just on that LPAT process, could you just sort of give us an example of what could happen? Obviously, we're speculating, but the process, as I understand it, they send it back to our council to basically disprove what we've already approved or not approved. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, the process now, so when it went to the Ontario Municipal Board, their decision was final. There was an ability to appeal it if there was some legal issues to the courts, but basically their decision was final. The way that it's structured now, they would have their hearing, they would make their decision, and then it would come back to council to basically say, yeah, we've decided to go against you, or we've decided to go with you, and the council would get to reconsider, and then it would go back again. I just caveat that by saying that it's my understanding that that the government will be reviewing the rules, so we don't know really what the rules will be. But at the moment, those are the rules.
Okay, go ahead, Willie.
Through you, Mayor Dave, to Liz. Jumping back to the noxious weed thing, and I know that we did try to address that in the amendments that were provided. One of the residents, Conrad Richter, had mentioned that the federal level of, and we did hear this when we had the agricultural roundtable as well, that the federal and provincial both have different standards that they hold agriculture to. So where I'm getting with regards to this is, my understanding is that we're under provincial legislation, but if we hold them to the higher standard, which is the federal level, can we provide that into our recommendation? Yeah, I just want to make sure as I ask it.
As my understanding, it is in the revised.
It is, but I just wanted to make sure that it was said, but sometimes when things are read in a situation like this, it might not get carried across.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that, as we look at this, if one is higher than the other, that we're aiming for the highest form of security for that.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from council? Nope. Okay. Can you, Liz, my question is, can you run through the options? If this council tonight votes this down or doesn't make a decision, what happens next?
So that would mean that the applicant could appeal to LPAT. And in that situation, because council hasn't taken a position, it's a little bit more up to the tribunal as to what they will do or not do. So you are putting things a bit more into the hands of the tribunal than you would if you gave them a specific recommendation, in my view. And I'm sort of treading a fine line here between giving you planning advice and legal advice. So
fair enough. So the question I think you're answering now is, if we do nothing and leave it, that's,
well,
or if we turn it down.
If you do nothing, the applicant is well beyond his 150 days. So he can appeal to the tribunal today for lack of decision on your part. Again, because it was a lack of decision, there's no guidance to the tribunal about what council's position was, so you really will have not a lot of control over what will happen. As opposed to a situation where you've turned it down, they can still appeal it, but by your decision to turn it down, you've at least given some kind of direction to the board, but you haven't given them a lot to work with. And frankly, they'll be dealing with a situation where I would likely be subpoenaed, and they would have my evidence. So.
And your evidence is?
What my report says.
Okay. So again, your evidence is, the evidence that you would provide if you were subpoenaed would be your report that stated that you supported this application.
That's right.
Correct? Now, again, we're going through the whole process here, folks. If we vote yes to move forward, to go into the hold zone while the applicant comes up with his building design and all the ways that he's going to mitigate any of the concerns, if we vote yes, can we still end up at the LPAT?
If a member of the public or an agency appeals, then you could still end up at the LPAT.
Okay, and if we end up at the LPAT in that case, you won't be subpoenaed by anyone else because your report supports it, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Now, I did get a question from the floor via text, and that question had to do with the fire safety plan, which I know the answer to. It was actually in the section under fire that Councillor Hyatt brought up, that talked about requesting a fire safety plan no matter what happens. Even the question was whether or not there'd be the 25 people as occupants, but we're requesting that anyway.
That's right. And my recollection is that you're also requesting that it come to council. So it's not just to the fire department, it's to this council to be aware of it.
Again, we're taking this very seriously, and we want to make sure that we're comfortable from a fire, from a weed mitigation. And then the other item that Councillor Hyatt read in terms of to amend this bylaw had to do with the look and feel of this building. So it talked about it fitting into the environment with an agricultural flair. Again, so just so it fits in as well as it possibly can. Okay, so. Yeah. Okay, so, oh, and one more question. Is there a water tower in this facility?
I believe there is. No, there isn't? No? No. There's some kind of tower. There's some kind of.
There's no, the water tanks that would be underground.
Yeah. No, the water tank. There's.
Okay. Okay. So. Okay. Well, okay. With the next step on this, guys, folks, is a site plan. So with the site plan, we get to see exactly how many square feet the building is exactly, what the layout is, how it looks, the types of things that they have to do to mitigate their risks of fire, mitigate weeds. That's the next step if this council vote for it. Okay, if there's no other questions, is there from council? Okay. All right, Deb, what do we do next here? Just a second. Okay, so folks, what do we want to do with Liz's report then if there's no further questions? Okay, quickly. Gord, what do you want to do with Liz's report? Give me a motion. There's no, I don't think there's any more questions. Okay, so we lifted the report from the floor. Gord, we lifted the report from the floor. So give me a motion to, yeah. Yep, go for it, Gord. You're up.
Just put yourself in our shoes.
Go ahead, Gord.
Mr. Chair, through you, we've lifted this from the table, correct? Yeah?
Yep.
Does anyone else, I guess, have any questions before we proceed? Okay, we have a recommendation on the floor, and I think, was it you that called for a recorded vote?
No, the residents.
Oh, the residents one?
Yeah. So as per communication by the residents on numerous occasions throughout this process, the request was a recorded vote, so I'd be willing to make that request on behalf of the residents of Goodwood.
Thanks.
Procedurally,
Okay,
you need to get it on the table first.
so can I get a seconder to move the recommendations of this report? We need a seconder, seconded by Willie. And then, Councillor Hyatt, with this is with the additional,
With
additional
amendments, yeah, would form part of the hold. So I don't know if Liz needs to redraft this, or we just add it as a subsequent amendment. What would be your preference, Liz?
Liz has a copy of those amendments.
You have a copy? Okay.
So, Gord, can you give me a motion to move the recommendations in the
I think we
amended
need to
report?
add the amendments first, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, and then we'll go
Okay.
from there, okay? I'll make a motion to add those three items to the H.
Okay, so folks, let's vote on adding those three amendments to this report. Okay, moved by Councillor Hyatt, seconded by Councillor Pop. All those again in favor of adding those three additional recommendations to Liz's report. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, next is on the report itself. Councillor Hyatt, do you want to give me a motion to move the amended
The
report?
recommendation as amended, yeah.
Yeah. A second by Willie. Okay, so all those in favor of moving this amended report and a recorded vote for Willie
So this is on the original.
on the original motion.
Okay, there's been a recorded vote requested by Councillor Pop. Councillor Riona.
Yeah, give him one. So yes or no on the report?
This is the recorded vote.
Derek, yes or no on the report?
I vote yes in favor of Grainboys.
Councillor Garrett.
I vote yes.
Councillor Pop.
Yes.
Councillor Snooks.
Yes.
Councillor Hyatt.
Yes.
Mayor Barton.
Yes.
Motion carries 6 yay and no nays.
So that's carried, folks. Okay. All right, next on the agenda here. Okay, Deb, what's that? Okay. Can someone read the bylaw, please? Do you want a mic?
Just need to sign.
Read it quick.
Okay, first reading and second reading, moved by Bruce Garrett, seconded by Todd Snooks. That leave be granted to introduce bylaw number 2019-054, and the same be read a first and second time.
All those in favor?
Bring back the map over there where you see where this thing is going, where we
Okay, just a second. All those in favor? Todd, did you vote? Yes, I did. Okay, that's carried. Thanks.
Moved by Bruce Garrett, seconded by Todd Snooks, that bylaw 2019-054 now be read a third time, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk duly sign and seal same.
All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Any other business? No? Any questions from the press? Could someone go hand a mic to Roger?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Liz Housen, if I may. You mentioned that the applicant has 150 days to expect a response to his application. How long has it been since the application was first received?
I don't know the precise number of days, but it's been well beyond the 150 days. It's well beyond that time limit.
Okay, don't sit down, Liz. Now that council has approved the application, what are likely to be the next steps, and how long will it take to go through those steps?
So the bylaw has to be circulated. There's 20 days for the appeal. If there's no appeal, then they will have to start the process for meeting the conditions, and that could take up to a year or more, depending on there's quite a few studies that are required here. If it's appealed to LPAT, then it will go off to a hearing. And again, there's, under the LPAT rules, there's a specific time in which they have to have the hearing. I'm not sure what that time
Liz,
is.
can I interrupt for a second?
But there is a hearing.
Okay. Hey, guys, folks, the press is asking questions. If you could be respectful so the press could hear the answers, that'd be great.
Why can't you guys be respectful of us?
So, folks, after this, guys, we will open this up to questions from the public, just like we did the press. Keep going. Go ahead, Liz. Again, I'm trying.
It's already been made up. You guys want us to talk now? It's too late. It's too late. And this one here is giving me shit from where he is. He's been looking at his cell phone all night long. You mean we pay you guys through our taxes to represent us? But just know there's a water tower. She says, yeah, there's a water tower.
None of you guys live in Goodwood, do you?
Roger, do you have any other questions?
None of you guys live in Goodwood, do you?
Yeah, none of them don't.
Yes, I do.
You don't care about...
Do they still teach civics in high school?
You guys don't care about Goodwood, so don't give me that crap that you're here to represent our best interests. You're not.
You're not. First of all, I don't understand why you have to rezone that area specifically when Durham 30 could have been rezoned.
Why didn't you
Okay?
consider another
For an
location?
industrial unit.
Why didn't you consider another location?
Okay, folks. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting? It's not going anywhere.
You know what?
Yeah, because you guys have your way, and to hell...
Can we get a confirming bylaw, please?
Sit there.
That's right.
To make decisions. So keep your mouth shut and remember,
Good luck
I'm
with your
older than you,
re-election in
and be
3.5
respectful.
years. You guys aren't acting on our best
Be
behalf.
respectful, okay? Be respectful, because you're not living there. I am. Okay? I
And
don't
we've
care
been more
that
than
you're
respectful
being
throughout
stupid
the
or
whole
not.
presentation.
Moved by Bruce Garrett, seconded by Todd Snooks. The leave be granted to introduce bylaw number 2019-055, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of its special
Why didn't you
meeting
just
of council of Monday,
reconsider
April
another
8th,
location?
and the same be read a first and second time.
Why didn't
All
you
those in
just
favor?
consider another location?
Yeah, why not
confirming
another
bylaw?
You guys kept talking about
Somebody's
risk.
getting their
Take the
pockets
risk
filled.
away completely.
Council, can we
by
vote on the
having-
confirming
by not
bylaw,
having
please?
it in a residential
Moved by,
area.
yeah, we did.
Okay, did you hear that? Okay, go, so, third
Moved
reading?
by
Carry on.
Bruce Garrett, seconded by Todd Snooks, that bylaw number 2019-055 be now read a third time, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk duly sign and seal same.
All those in favor of third reading? Carried. Okay, meeting's adjourned, thanks. Now, anyone who has any questions, come and talk to me.
You guys are pathetic. You're gutless one more than the day. Right my finger at you while I'm talking to you. Yeah.